in the endless dark of the Antarctic winter, where no sunlight touches the ice for months, a small research outpost called Byrd Deep Camp stands alone. 6 people, scientists and engineers, wintering over to conduct acoustic mapping of the subglacial bedrock. Their tool, a powerful hydrophone array lowered into a 4-kilometer borehole, sending precise low-frequency pulses downward and listening for the returning echoes. The echoes tell stories of ancient layers, hidden lakes, the shape of the continent itself. They expected predictable returns, delayed reflections, familiar waveforms. The data was clean, almost comforting in its predictability. Layers of ancient rock returning sharp, textbook echoes every 6 hours, like clockwork. The team reviewed printouts over coffee, marked progress on maps, joked about how the continent beneath them was more cooperative than the weather above. No one anticipated deviation. But in the winter of 2024, the echoes began to change. It started subtly. A returned pulse would arrive with faint extra harmonics, overtones not present in the original signal. At first, the team attributed it to natural resonance in the borehole, or multiple reflections inside some vast subglacial cavity. Common enough anomalies, but the changes grew more deliberate. Send a simple sequence of 3 pings. The return would mirror it exactly. Then add a 4th. The 4th ping returned with perfect symmetry, but phase inverted, as if the response had been reflected not just in time, but turned inside out. The spectrogram showed it clearly, a mirror image, deliberate. The control module went quiet for a long moment. Someone muttered, "That's not possible." Change the interval. The echo matched the new pattern instantly. The match was adaptive. They tested it again. Slower intervals, faster, irregular patterns. Each time the reply adjusted within seconds, incorporating the new rhythm while adding subtle flourishes, overtones that suggested mathematical elegance, not chaos. Diagnostics cycled through every possible error source. Nothing. Shift frequency. The reply followed, then introduced variations of its own. Complex sequences that followed mathematical ratios no random resonance should produce. The added layers formed golden ratio spirals in the frequency domain, prime number embedded intervals. It wasn't mimicry anymore. It was conversation. One side learning, refining, anticipating. The team ran diagnostics, calibrated equipment, ruled out interference. Yet the responses kept evolving, as if something below were studying the signals and improving its imitation. They began listening for longer hours, headphones on in the dim control module, watching spectrograms bloom across the screens. The returning waveforms grew richer, layered with harmonics that, when played through speakers, took on an almost vocal quality. Deep, resonant tones that rose and fell like slow breathing. Some on the team joked about pareidolia, the mind's trick of finding voices in noise. Others quietly admitted the patterns felt too structured, too responsive. The jokes grew thinner. Night shifts stretched longer. Headphones stayed on even when the scheduled pings were hours away. Spectrograms became hypnotic, blooming patterns that seemed to pulse in time with the watcher's breathing. One engineer started sketching the waveforms on scrap paper, tracing them like runes. Another kept the speakers low but never off, listening for changes even in silence. Sleep fractured. Dreams carried faint echoes back to the surface. Sleep became optional. Then came the night the echo arrived before the ping. The hydrophone registered a perfect copy of the pulse they were about to send, seconds early. A flawless duplicate, amplitude, duration, frequency. The engineer froze, fingers still hovering. The room's air felt heavier. Then, faintly through the speakers, the echo began to breathe, slow, tidal inhalations that synced for a terrifying instant with the rhythm in his own chest. After that, they stopped pretending it was natural. One crew member, engineer Reyes, became convinced the signal was trying to communicate. He spent hours crafting more intricate transmissions, prime number sequences, Fibonacci rhythms, and watched in silence as the returns grew ever more elaborate. He moved his sleeping bag to the control room floor. Then he sent not just primes and Fibonacci, but fragments of personal life, a heartbeat rhythm from an old stress test recording, a hummed melody from childhood. The replies wove them in. The heartbeat slowed, deepened. The melody returned, stretched across octaves, resonant, ancient. His notes grew frantic, timestamps, waveform comparisons, theories scrawled in margins. The others watched him deteriorate in slow motion, unshaven, eyes fixed on screens, whispering to the speakers as if coaxing a reply. They stopped trying to pull him away. The final transmission was sent at 2:47 station time. A simple question encoded in pulse intervals, a repeating pattern that, in binary, spelled who. The reply came immediately, not as pulses this time, but as a long, layered harmonic played through every speaker in the camp. A sound assembled from fragments of their own recorded voices, drawn from weeks of logged conversations and distorted into something vast and choral. No words, just the slow, rising intonation of recognition, as if something ancient had finally learned the shape of human sound and was acknowledging the greeting. The harmonic lingered long after the transmission cut. It seeped into vents, echoed down empty corridors, embedded itself in the station's walls. The next logs show irregular activity, lights flickering without power surges, doors unsealing on their own. Reyes was last seen entering the borehole access alone, mumbling about finishing the conversation. The remaining crew followed shortly after. When the spring team arrived, the crew was gone. The borehole itself had changed, its walls smoothed and widened into a perfect cylinder that descended beyond the reach of any light or line. The hydrophone was still active. Depth soundings returned nothing but the same layered harmonic, growing fainter with distance. The echo continues to this day, listening. The ice remembers everything. It has waited patiently for those curious enough to speak first. What signals have you sent into the dark beneath your world? Subscribe if you still believe the void only echoes what you already know.